Okay, so what really is the legacy behind Alexander? There's a lot that goes to it. He's really a figure who's only there from uh, you know 12 years, but the empire that he creates, and more importantly, the lasting impact of his empire. When we talk about Alexander the Great, it's awesome. This guy who creates this entire empire through war and overtaking lands. The problem with Alexander is it's really nothing. He doesn't do the things that lead into his history being known. He is simply a man trying to take land. It's the easiest way to put it. But what he does with that is the part that is so fascinating about this. Um, One thing he is credited for is the fact that he melds together a lot of different uh, groups of people, and in doing this, he will lead into really a new kind of culture that existed. So it becomes known as the Hellenistic culture that he creates. It's really a blend of Egyptian, Persian, and Indian influences within, okay, the Greek aspect. So they coined a term Koine, or the language that was used in Hellenistic cities. Um, it's a direct result of the cultural blending between those three slash four cultures: the Egyptian, Persian, Indian influence, as well as Greek. The Egyptian city of Alexandria becomes the most powerful city of commerce within the Hellenistic civilization. We still talk about it today. It's featured in films. It is thought to be one of the most powerful cities in the world. And by the third century BCE, Alexandria had really become a community with rich traditions. They had a gallery, they had a zoo, botanical gardens, a dining hall, the library that existed of Alexandria that had scrolls containing masterpieces from ancient literature. It becomes really the first true research library with a telescope that was put in there as well. So all of these things, or excuse me, not a telescope, but a viewing room of the stars. All of these different things lead Alexandria to be a rather powerful and important part of history. Astronomy, okay? Again, the observatory to study the planets and the stars is a huge part of the city of Alexandria. Aristarchus, who reaches two very big conclusions, okay, during his time period here. You have estimating that the sun is 3 times larger than the Earth itself, um, and proposing the Earth and other planets revolve around the sun. Uh, in a lot of ways, he is not wrong. He disproves the widely held belief that the sun is actually smaller than Greece, and the proposal that the Earth and the planets revolve around the sun. Unfortunately for science, the other astronomers refute his theory. And in the second century AD, Alexandria's last renowned astronomer, Ptolemy, incorrectly places the Earth at the center of the solar system. Now, why is this important? Well, it's important because it becomes the thought process behind the Bible. And for years and years and years, people don't understand that it's not the Earth at the center of the universe. Instead, it is the sun that exists. Um, Eratosthenes is another person that we have to look at. He tries to calculate the Earth's true size using geometry. He goes out and computes the Earth's circumference anywhere between 28 and 29,000 miles. Modern measurements put it around 24,860 miles. So that means that a man who really has no other instruments outside of using math is able to come pretty close to calculating the actual true size of the Earth. Math has some new work in it as well. Euclid, okay, writes a book on 465 geometry propositions and proofs. still the basis of geometry, and the reason I don't like geometry, because you had to prove everything, and I never could do that. So Euclid is best known for that. So you can thank Euclid for your geometry classes when you get to those, or if you've already had them. Archimedes, okay? He studies at Alexandria, and he accurately estimates the value of pi, okay? The ratio of the circumference of a circle to its diameter. And in addition, he explains the law of the lever, and he will create the the Archimedes screw, which would be used to raise water, okay, from the ground and bring it up, just like this we see here. So this screw was rotating, moving the water to the upper ground from the lower level. So this becomes known as the Archimedes screw, and this is something that becomes possible because of Alexandria, which was the city, and on top of that, it becomes possible because of the fact that we have the Hellenistic culture that existed. Philosophy and art. Zeno, will find something called Stoicism. All right, founded the school of Stoicism, in which they proposed that people should live virtuous lives in harmony with the will of God, or the natural laws that God established to run the universe. They preached that human desires, power, and wealth are very dangerous distractions that should be checked. Another man, Epicurus, he founded the school of thought called Epicureanism. Okay? Taught that that the gods, who had no interest in humans, ruled the universe. So he believes the only real objects were those that the five senses would actually perceive, and taught that the greatest good and the highest pleasure came from virtuous conduct and the absence in pain. Today, the word Epicurean means a person devoted to pursuing human pleasures, especially the enjoyment of food and things like that. So that becomes his thought process too. We also see some realism in sculpture, okay? Sculpture flourishes during this time. One of the things that we see is something called the Colossus of Rhodes. It stood more than 100 feet high. It's one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. And it was toppled apparently in 225 BCE. We don't necessarily have an idea of what it looked like, but trust me, there are those ideas out there of what it did look like. But it was toppled by an earthquake. And then this is something that you're probably familiar with, is Nike, which is known as Winged Victory. We know Nike for the shoes it created, but Nike was actually created in 203 BCE to commemorate the Greek naval victory, and it looks like a set of wings. So these are some of the images of what they thought that the Colossus of Rhodes might have looked like, which would have been one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world that existed. And the Colossus of Rhodes was in what island was it on? I can't remember what island it was on. I'd have to look that up, guys. And then this is Nike, or Winged Victory. This is where we get the symbol of Nike as well. So Nike takes this symbol kind of from it. It looks a little bit like the check mark or the swoosh that is the Nike figure with these with the wings that are a part of it. But this was created to commemorate the Greek naval victory. And so we see this portion of things really kind of paying off in a lot of ways. And the Hellenistic ideal was really a powerful movement. But the world was in decline, and a new city will come to power during this time, which we will talk about next chapter, which is Rome. Rome becomes the next powerful city that we see, and really will also help to shape Western civilization as well.